Good morning, Rahul.
Thanks for joining the call. Could you please share your screen and open your PPT and go through
Okay,
the topics
okay.
and walk me through? Over to you, Potraju.
Thank you, Rahul. I share my screen. My screen visibility.
Yes, I am visible your screen.
Today I am presenting for a attribute dimension. Attribute dimension is a special type of members in dimensions. Attribute dimension contain classify the group of members. So attribute dimensions are you focus on user. For suppose I have created for a region. So under the region I have a same different types of country, so user can be come and assign the which members are associated with the standard dimension, so user can be focus on that members. So coming to the next slide, in this topic I will show you how to use uses of attribute dimension in the following artifacts for a data forms and the runtime forms means, and also business rules and smart view. In this I show you after coming to the data attribute dimension. First of all, what is attribute in general? Can you give me example of a attribute in the Amazon app? So Amazon attribute is a category of a group of members, and also for example taking a Amazon for a Amazon app. In the Amazon app you have a home page, you have different types of a menus that are the fashion and slipper men's slippers and also like that. For example I take the men's slippers. In the slipper there are different types of size and colors are defined, that are the comes under the attributes. After the after next question moving, can you explain the difference between standard dimension and attribute dimension? Standard dimensions are used mainly used for a business purpose and calculation purpose and running the business rules. But whereas the attribute dimensions are using for a generating the reports, and it's a data storage for a standard dimensions are in, if you assign the data storage type or like or store and dynamic but whereas in attribute dimension you can assign the dynamic allocation, only data can be stored in attribute dimension, and attribute standard dimensions are created any members for any data storage for its dense or spark, but whereas the attribute dimension we can be created or load in the spark only in FCS application, whereas PBS are different. And after next question, in this which case you prefer attribute dimension over standardized? I prefer for a user can be focus on the region for a group of a members, can prefer for a attribute dimension for a accessing entering the data in the forms or analyzing the data. Can we assign the attribute dimension to dense or spark? Absolutely, you can assign the attribute dimension in Spark in FCS application, but whereas in different in Oracle technology, it is comes to differ. And I show you what is the dense and spark dimension comes under the FCS application. Again, go to application, click on the home icon. Either go to the navigator under the dimensions. Click on the performance settings. In this you can see the which is a dense dimension dense and which dimension is the spark dimension. By default the system can be provided by a dense or a account, so in this account he does not creating the attribute dimensions, whereas in other dimensions for a moment and period and consolidation data source and currency intercompany multi-gap product and scenario year and view and entity, these members you have created the attribute dimension depending on. But coming to the FCSS, we have created for a mainly created for a attribute dimension under the period product dimension and entity dimension. I show you. I can go to the dimension. In the account, there is a under the action, the select the custom attribute. So in the creating custom attribute under the create, you have option for creating the attribute dimension. But whereas the other dimension for entity or product or any consolidation or currency dimension, the attribute dimensions are created. I show you. Click on the product, selecting. After click on the actions or a drop down, you have option called a custom attributes. Click on the attributes, custom attributes. You have creating the option for creating a new attributes and then providing the name and also coming to the presentation. And can we assign the attribute dimension to dense? I show you. Tip, use any of existing attribute dimensions. Can you show me how to create the attribute dimension? Now again go to application. I show you how to create the attribute dimensions. So suppose I have created a plus icon. I give a name for a gender and give for a text and click on save. And genders comes with mainly for a female and male. Give for a children's under the gender. Click on the selecting the gender. Click on the plus icon for add children, or under the actions we have option for a add children. Add children. Now creating the children for a male and click on save. And again click on the add children for a male for a female. And I also creating one more child member for under the gender for others. So like this way you can creating the attribute dimensions in application. Again go to presentation. After I show you creating the attribute dimension, can you show me how to assign the attribute dimension to the standard dimension? You show you again go to application. So earlier I have creating for a attributes for a the name for a gender, and also creating for children for a male and female others. So now I show you how to assign the that attribute dimension member to standard dimension. After click on the expand the product or which member or which item you can assign. So for suppose I have taken for a television and select the level 0 member for a 4K television. So click on the edit properties and click on the attribute values and select the gender under the which member you assign to the attribute dimension member to the standard dimension. I can select the male. Click on the move to the right side. Like this way you can assigning the assigning attribute dimension to standard dimension. It takes a few minutes. After that you have assigning after like this way you can assign the remaining two members. After assigning the standard dimension, after you can refresh the database. So means you can changing the members of the properties and also assigning the attributes to the standard dimension. That's way you can refresh the application. It takes hardly 5 minutes. In the meantime, I can explain the what are the tasks performed after refreshing. I show you. I coming to the next slide. These are the attribute dimension in data form. In this, I show you how to use the attribute dimensions in data form. First, can you show me how to use the attribute dimensions in the data forms in the page drop down, and show me how to standard dimensions members are filtered. Okay. After using any of existing attribute dimension, if we not available, creating the one of the attributes like for a region and APXC and Europe, ESC and FFR and region for attribute dimension. These are the region and Asian Pacific and Europe and USA, Middle East to Africa. These are the children of the region attribute dimension. After standard dimension entities and randomly assign members of the region to the entry dimension. You take the creating the attribute dimension under the entry dimension and also assign the attribute dimension members to the standard dimension. After assigning, if the hash missing and zero settings is enabled, I'll show me how to the standard members are filtered up for the attribute members. After completing the task, and can you move the attribute dimension to the point of view and explain the out of the feed, and also after can you move the attribute dimension to the rows and explain out of the feed, and also can you move the attribute dimension to the columns and explain out of the feed. I show you how to assign the data forms and attributes. Then go to application. Is process going. After completion of refreshing the database, you can click on the finish. After you can go to the navigator under the create and manage for a forms. So mainly using for a attribute dimension for defining for a coloring and items wise defining or a group of the members. Takes 3 minutes 20 seconds. Yeah. Refreshing the database depending on the takes times, depending on the selecting the cubes for a rate cube and console cube and also importing the metadata. That's why it takes more time. After click on the running background, you can go to the navigator. Under the job section, we can see the status of the refresh database. I'll show you. Click on the jobs card under the application cluster. The refresh database is processing. So refresh is database successfully. After click on the navigator, go to the create and image under the forms. So in this we have take the existing form for a attribute in data forms. Click on the edit. In the layout tab, so these are the earlier have creating for a attribute dimension for a gender. Now moving to the and point of view and columns and page. The main difference between the point of view is only selecting the one member for each dimension for a standard dimension or attribute dimension also. But whereas in page you can select the id cent of our children of the our level 0 members of the attribute dimension members and also standard dimension members. But whereas in rows you can assign the which you can assign the level 0 members and id cent of children of the members. So using so you can enter the data in rows also. You can assign the columns also for a level 0 members or ID send. I show you how to assign attributes in point of view. I can move to the point of view. In this time I can select the genders for a male or male. Click on OK. After to click on the preview, you can see the region under the male is come to the point of view. Like we have assigned the attribute dimension in point of view, and also moving for a move to the page. In this you can assign the in this page you can selecting the ID cent or level 0 member. Click on the edit, selecting the gender. You can click on the functions icon. You select the ID cent or children's or descent or leading or level 0 members. Now you selecting the ID cent. Click on the right side. After click on OK, click on the preview. You can see the difference for a point of view and click on the plus icon. You can changing the male for a female or gender or others. You can changing for a female. After click on OK, we can see the data like. After I can moving for a attribute dimension to the row. I show you how to can remove the male. I can assign the attribute for a ID cent of general. After click on the preview in the row section, you can see the members for a male and female other. Like this way, you can assign the attribute dimension in a column. Also now I show you how to assign in dimension. Click on the row and selecting the column. And after click on the preview, you can see the difference by page and expanding the minimizing the gender. Click on the gender. You can see the gender minimizing. After you can maximize, click on the plus icon. So columns data will be expand. After then enter the data like this. So move to the dimension. After that, click on save. Click on preview. The farm data is working. Okay. Click on the finish. Like this way, you can assign the attribute dimensions in forms, in the data forms. Again, go to presentation. After I show you, again move to the next. Next attribute uses of attribute dimension in the runtime. RTP. RTP means runtime prompts. If you want on-demanding rules for a running consolidation or a translation, you can create in the RTPs in calculation manager. By default, calculation manager is providing for a on-demanding rules. You can create another RTPs or in creating the global level or application level or console cube level. You can creating the RTPs. Given to the presentation, usage of attribute dimension in RTP. In this, first you have can you assign the attribute dimension or attribute dimension members in the RTP? Yes, you can assign the attribute dimensions or attribute members in the RTP. If yes, can you show me how to assign the attribute dimensions or attribute dimension members in the RTP? Again, go to application, click on the navigator. Under the create and manage, you have called a rules card. Click on the roles card. You have open the calculation manager icon window. Expand the EPM cloud. Or else click on the actions. Under the you have a variable design. Under the expand the EPM cloud and expand the global, or you can creating the RTVs for global level, or you can creating the application level, or whereas if you create the application level, I can create in the application level for I can assign the attributes, so I can create in the application level. So click on the console, click on the actions under the create the new. This time I can creating the attribute for a name for a RTP RTP underscore can give for a attribute, can give for a attribute RTP for a attribute, and type of selecting for a member. After in the dimension table, you can see the what are the attributes you have created earlier. You can see the differences, region, color, and shape. Regions I have already have above created for attribute dimension. So like show in this calculation method, selecting the shape or color. I can select the color. In the enable the RTP, so you can assign the limits. Click on the function icon. Click on the functions. You can assigning for attributes like this way in the limited. Selecting now working. I can show you for a attribute, so I can select the attribute. These are the functions of attribute dimension members. Click on the member. After selecting the member for a under the color for a red or selecting the color, expanding the red or color. I can selecting for entire color. Click on the OK. Like this, we can assign the limits in the runtime prompts. Select that. Click on the can also defaults complete. After a please text or you can enter the data. After providing the RTP text and default value and limits. After click on the save. So RTP variable is created successfully. Like this way, you can assign the limits in the data forms, runtime forms. Again, go to presentation. So can you show me only few attributes? I show you in the limits run TP. Again, move to for a usage of attribute dimensions in business rules. Usage of attribute dimension in business rules. In this, I show you how to assign the attributes in the business rules. First, can you show me how many functions are available to use the attribute in the BR? I show you. Or else you can click on this link. You can see the what are the functions available for a attribute dimension. Click on the enter. We can see the technical reference under the we have a calculation functions under the we have a functional calculation function under the calculation function categories. You can see the attributes and is the attribute are like that. You can select the or else you can go to the application for under the calculation manager. You can go to the systems view. You can expanding the EPM cloud and expand the application name and expanding the console and expanding the rule set. These are the rules for creating for on demand. Now I have show you or also I have created new rule. Well, click on the action under the new object. Click on providing the application type EPM cloud and application for a CSS and QB's console. And object type is I can give for a rule and providing for a name for a new object for a already. So you can give for a RTP, can rule for a business rule for attributes, and click on OK. After the window is asking for a open the editing. So after click on the OK, you can write the scripting for a business rules. Now click on the functions. These are the functions for a available for a attribute dimension for a attribute at the rate of attribute or at the rate of value and at the rate of value and at the rate of values. Also, you can selecting the functions under the you can selecting the members for a boolean or under the you can see the attribute members for a is attribute. These are the member functions under the attribute dimension. Again, go to the presentation. Software, can you show me at least two functions of attribute in BR and expect the choose random by any attribute dimension members and choose any one random combination of standard dimension, create an input sheet in SmartView and creating the output sheet in the SmartView and creating the BR with the attribute functions, executing the BR and show me result of the output sheet. Again, go to application. Now show you how to assign the attribute functions in BR. Apply the scripting for a fix up. Up will you have creating for a variable designing for a name for a RTP underscore attribute. Select the name and come to the business rules, providing the under the open parenthesis and under the providing. After click on the end fix. After click on the save, we can see the under the variables. So one member is created variable member like RTP underscore attribute. After click on the validate. So validation again is spanning server. So validation is a success with no error. After click on the deploy, you can deploy the business rule. So you can launch a business for three ways. One is you can launch the business in calculation manager and also launch the business rules in application level. Also you can run the business launch the business rules in the smart view. After click on the now I'll show you how to assigning the attribute functions in business rule. After click on the fix up. Selecting the function icon, selecting the is attribute or is value, selecting I am show you how to selecting the rate of attribute. After selecting the attribute member name, selecting the members, click on the members, selecting the attribute name under the dimensions, selecting the color and expanding the red. You can choosing for red, whatever you can select and click on the OK. After click on the OK, click on the end fix. So like way you can assign the attribute functions in the business rules. After click on the save, the business rules is attribute, and after click on the validate. The validation is successfully. Now I'll show you again for a one of the attribute is the attribute. I'll show you fix up attribute. In selecting the functions, set the function for attribute. You can changing for all function to boolean. In the boolean, I have a attribute available for a is attribute. You can select under the selecting for I can selecting the members, selecting for a color under the or you can select the shape under the members for a circle. After click on OK, click on the OK, click on the save, and after you can close the inputs. After click on the save, so business rule is successfully. After we check the any validation errors are like, can after click on the validate. So validation is going on. So there is a no role validation with no error. After click on OK, click on the deploy. The deploy is successful. After assigning the attribute dimension in business rules, click on the close. After you can go to the application under the navigate under the rules card, or you can go to the home page. You have option for your rules. Click on the rules. You can see the what are the rules for creating the business rule for a business rule for a attribute. Click on the launch. You can providing the parameters for a currency and current consolidation, entity and period and a scenario in year. Please enter the check data and select the what are the members you have created. Selecting after click on OK, click on the launch like you here. Like this way, you can launch a business rules in FCS application. Again, go to application presentation. I show you. After moving for a next slide. Moving for a smart view. In this, I show you how to use a attribute dimension in smart view. First, you have can you show me how to insert of attribute dimension in a smart view, and can you show me reports with the attribute dimension? Expectation for a choose any two random combination for each of the attributes dimension member associated with. Enter any random numbers with those combinations. Show and explain how those input members are reported by each of the attributes dimension members for a effects and example, and also attribute dimension reason for example. I show you. Okay, I connect the smart view. Click on the Excel, providing the selecting the click on the blanks. Click on the smart view. Click on the planner. Selecting the private connection. In this, you have providing the URL for a actions for a service smart view through EPM. After window is open for a login for a credential. After I give for a credential for a username for EPM underscore default underscore cloud underscore admin. This is the username of the EPM cloud access, and password is EPM demos. These are the password for EPM access. Click on after click on OK. Expanding the URL. So this is the application name for FCSS. Under the dimension, you can see the what are the dimensions available in the FCSS application. And you can see the attributes also. Click on the attributes. You can see the what are the attributes available in application. Have a region, sun, shape, and region. These are also by default complete to some of the attributes for the account dimension for a CICTA direct accounts and the default movements and the intercompany account. These are the by default system can be created for a attribute dimension. Now we will have creating the attribute dimension for a gender. These are the gender. After expanding the library, you can choosing for any form here, choosing for an attribute in the data form. Click on the add ad hoc analysis. So after you can selecting the point of view on numbers. After I show you how to assign the attribute dimension in row. So I can enter the selecting the name for a shape. After assigning the moving enter, click on the refresh. You can see the differences. You can give the name for a another members for a level 0 member. Click on the plus icon, providing the members for a red or click on the red. Click on the refresh. You can red member is added under the column. Like this way, you can assigning the members in smart view for a attribute dimensions. Again, go to presentation. Also, how to generating the reports for a so expanding the after you can enter the for a which dimension you handle like this way you can enter the actual. So after click on the refresh, so actual is added like this way you can assign attributes in column also can give for a column for a male. Creating a refresh. The male attribute is dimension memory is added for a row. Like this we can assign in the dimensions attribute dimension rows and columns. And also if you have any data like enter the data. So after you can enter the data, click on like this way you can generate the reports in Smart View. Finally conclusion for a attribute dimension. So in this conclusion for in this topics, I have show you for a usage of a attribute dimension in the following attributes for a data forms and runtime forms and business rules and smart view. That's all. Thank you, Raleigh.
Thank you both, Raju.
Thank you.